How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Looking forward to this podcast recording with my cousin, Adam the Jock Strozinski. I am the Doc. Welcome into the latest edition of Doc and Jock, the longest-running weekly episodic podcast in Detroit. What up, cuz? What's going on?
Dude, a whole bunch is taking place this week.
Ooh, we got a hot podcast.
Absolutely crazy. Michigan fans out there, sorry, John Beilein.
We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes.
He exited.
Yes, he's gone.
Sad day.
I know.
It really is.
You're going to need a few minutes to kind of decompress. Think about what the hell is going to happen to the Michigan program. Are they over? Who's going to be the replacement that's going to be coming in and really probably has the toughest job coming into a new situation because John Beilein did that well of a job building that program up. But
you know when he took... Well, all right, we'll get into it.
Yeah,
You're
going to talk all about it. Just wait a couple minutes because in our pre-show meeting, obviously sometimes you and I were looking at the same sites. We go online. Usually we wake up, kiss the wife, say what up, hey, say hello to the family, start texting each other. And then I surf
I kiss
social
the
media.
girlfriend, and then I leave.
Exactly.
The wife isn't here. I kiss the girl. Not just playing.
Yeah, exactly. Adam's like, okay, here's your $20. Just...
I'm like, I'll leave it on the nightstand for you. I'm out.
But I saw something on social media, and it was funny. It was Planet Fitness put out a request, and sometimes it's funny when you see, the basics that people are requesting, like, hey, can you please just wash your hands if you're a worker, and things like that. And Planet Fitness put out a request, and it said, please, patrons, have some respect and use the facilities the right way. Meaning, when men go take a tinkle, use the actual toilets. Don't use the trash can. And I was dying. I was like, wait a minute. There are men that are like in such a rush that they just drop trout, open the can, and piss in it.
It's not even men, dude.
Yeah, men, women.
It's women.
Exactly. It's like, holy cow, you got to go that bad that you're going to squat down and piss in a trash can? And you're like, dude, that's not even the beginning of it. I'm like, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. You're like, bro, I've looked in trash cans and saw excrement.
Yeah.
I was like, what? You saw shit in the trash can? You're like, yeah, Doc, I did.
All right, so here's the deal.
What the hell, bro?
So I work at the radio station, but that's actually job number one, but it's job number two with the way my day works. So job number one, I work for said company. I work for Planet Fitness. My job is to keep what are called the black card amenities clean, amongst other things. Black card amenities include such things as hydro beds, massage chairs, total body enhancement, and tanning. So I have to go through and I have to clean the tanning rooms every day. The piss isn't a problem. The piss is a problem, but the piss isn't the big issue. The big issue is I've had shit in one of the trash cans before. That was awful. I've had throw up in the trash cans before. It's just like bodily functions and bodily fluids take place in there. The other day, honestly, Tuesday, I had to go clean the men's room, and usually before I start cleaning, I do a quick walkthrough, see what really needs to get hit first. And inside the handicap stall, I was like, how the hell do you take a shit, and when you take a dump, it like shoots out the side of the toilet between the actual toilet itself and the lid? And I just couldn't figure it out, right? And I went and I asked one of the other girls, I was like, how does that happen? She was like, what are you talking about? I was like, how does that happen? Explain it to me. She was like, I don't know. Like, scientifically, it's not possible. Well, it turns out it was blood. There was like blood all over in this restroom. And I don't know if some dude had his period. I don't know if some dude blew an O-ring when he was taking a dump. There's blood everywhere. It's fucking disgusting. But back to the tanning rooms. Yes, people pee in them almost every day. And it's like I said, it's not even dudes. Like, really, it's not dudes. The majority of the people who tan, I would say 70% are women. And the women, I'm assuming it's them who piss in the garbage cans. I don't know. I don't understand why. I've had the like garbage cans crumpled because obviously you were sitting on it to either A, take a shit, or B, take a piss.
That's what I was shocked at. I was like, wait a minute.
Savages.
So
dude.
to do that,
People
like,
are
do you stand
fucking
over
animals.
Yeah, like do you stand over it and squat and then hold your leg muscles up to keep you upright? But you're like, no, bro. They just actually sit on it.
They just sit on it. They, like. Dude, it takes all kinds, man. The animals, they are animals, honestly. People are animals. If you're listening to this and you do this, you're a fucking animal. Yeah. Animals, dude. They're disgusting. You know how many times I leave a tanning room just pissed, like ready to fire on the first person I see because I'm so mad because I just had this, because when I clean the trash, I have a bag in one hand and I basically reach in and I pull stuff out, throw it in the bag because it's just supposed to be paper towel. It's supposed to be paper towel that you use to wipe the machine down. No. People piss in there. And you pull out pissy paper, or the one time I walked in the room, I was like, God damn, it smells like somebody just took a dump in here. Couldn't figure it out. And as I'm pulling some of this trash out of this loaded up trash can, I get down towards near the bottom of it, and I was like, what the, oh my God, this is gross. And at that point, your day's ruined. It just ruins your day. It's like somebody coming and actually taking a shit on your chest.
Yeah, exactly. The in the job that I do day to day, I do hear about the unusual things that people do and the way they think and things like that. But to totally disregard manners is something I'm not used to 100% of the time. And to see that Planet Fitness was forced to put out a memo for the patrons was just shocking. And then, you're just like, oh, bro, that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what people are willing to do.
Best part, I showed my manager the picture, and she was like, send that to me. And I was like, bet. I was like, can we do this? Like, no, for real. Like, can we do this? And she was like, just send it to me. I'm going to get it taken care of. So we're probably going to do that at my location because it happens all the time. We have like one trash can in one of the tanning rooms. And I'm like, man, this room just smells like urine all the time. And it's just, there's just pee that has dried underneath the actual trash can itself. And I should probably clean that, but I'm fucking lazy. And I figure if you're going to be an animal and you're going to do it, I mean, why do I got to pick up after you? Honestly, I feel like somebody's mom. I pick up after like grown ass men all day long. It's horrible.
Do you think cameras, if they were installed in those locations, I know you can't. I know you can't. That's the tough part, but
can't do
it because of the perverts. But I think if people knew that, hey, you're being monitored, that you would be called out, it would stop it. See, that's the tough part is that there's so many freaks out there that you can't tape someone in the bathroom. But I mean, what about?
Wait, what?
No, look, okay.
I want you to mark this down. What's the timestamp of this? Mark this down. I want you to listen back to this.
Wait, no, because, okay, you know what? If they're doing it in the trash can, that's a public area. I mean, that's a spot that could be looked at.
Yes, but, I mean, it's a tanning room. You get naked there. You can't put a camera in there.
Not in the tanning bed. Those things, I mean, obviously you can't. I'm talking about, like, in a trash can.
You're talking about trying to somehow dissuade them from doing it, right?
Yeah, so you'll be shamed.
Yes,
because I think if we shame people, they won't do the stuff that they do.
But don't allow them the ability to do it. So you have to remove the trash cans from the rooms.
Yes.
So here's the thing, right? I ended up going to a Planet Fitness in Indiana, right? Because I was visiting the wife last weekend, and I wanted to go work out real quick. So I went to the one in Mishawaka, and I hit their tanning room real quick because it's been a little bit since I hit the tanning bed. So I hit the tanning bed real quick, and they don't have garbage cans in the room. It became very awkward because I wipe the bed down before I lay in it, and then I lay in it, and then I wipe it down after, and I have all this paper towel in my hand. I'm like, what the hell do I do? They keep theirs right outside the door, like one centrally located in the middle of all the rooms, so you go throw it there. It makes it awkward when you're in the room, but you know what? Nobody's pissing in any trash cans there.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying is that obviously not in the private areas, but a way to say, look, if you're going to abuse the trash cans, we're sorry. You don't get to have it right there in that room. You got to go somewhere else. You got to, here's one trash can centrally located. Use this trash can because, look, we don't want our employees opening the trash can and every time they open it wondering what the hell's in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, you know what's in there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal, though. Like, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
That people do stuff. Like, how do you think that's okay?
Yeah.
How did your mom raise you? Like, what kind of savage-ass household do you come from? Like, you got to go to the bathroom. Do you just take a shit in your bed? Is that what you do? Is that how you do things? Is that how you live? And then if you do that, do you not wipe up after yourself? And if you do, are you using a bed sheet? These are all questions I want to know, but I don't really want to know. All of these things. People are animals. When it comes down to it, deep down, people are animals. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I give you credit for coming in, week out after that job to come in here and laugh it up with me. So last week you get a pass for being all angry. That was a good episode.
That's why when I come in, I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
I'm usually dealing with some shit from there.
No doubt about it.
Horrible.
And then to add to stressors, man, you got to wake up on a Monday morning. You try to, get all the cobwebs out of your eyes, and you look down on your phone, and the notifications go off, and our Twitter page blows up at Detroit Podcast. Bro, Woj bomb on a Monday. John Beilein decided, sign a contract, 5 years. Bro, he signed the contract, 5 years to leave the University of Michigan, and it sent shockwaves all across the NBA, all across college basketball. And I was floored to hear the story, but when it broke, I was in the kitchen and I was looking on Facebook and I seen a site that posted it, and I went right away to Twitter and I'm like, no way he did this. And then you start to realize, wow, some of the reasons that have been kind of talked about as to why he would leave. It just, for me, to start there, it just kind of really speaks to the state of college basketball, that a guy that's been in it, his whole coaching career, with the success that he had, was willing to leave.
As a Michigan State fan, how did this hit you? Because I know you sent me some stuff and you were laughing your head off and you're like, so funny because you're a Michigan State ass clown. So these things happen.
Yes.
What was your reaction? Was it just unbridled excitement? Were you jubilant?
Yes.
Were you like the guy who's basically been a thorn in Tom Izzo's side? He's now gone, and Michigan's going to fall back to the cellar where they belong. Was that your impression? Was that your reaction? Is that where you were at? Did I cover all the bases there?
Oh yeah, you covered all the bases. Oh yeah, it was like this, bro. It was like this. Bro, it was like, the biggest rival that Michigan State had was gone. It was like, yes. Because instantly my first thought was, Michigan's fucked. And I was like, yes, this is great because John Beilein did such a great job. Oh, let's sink in. That's what I was feeling. I was like, yes, Michigan State, at least for a year or two, is going to have their way in the state of Michigan in college basketball. So that's what I was just like, celebration. I looked right away and I thought about how this affected Michigan State. And then I said, wow, you lost, the Michigan basketball program lost their coach, 3 potentially talented players, and you realize it's just not going to be that easy to replicate. And I was just like, hell yeah, bro, because you know why? Like you said, I am a Michigan State asshat. Michigan tears make me happy, and I don't care, and I'm proud to say it. Knowing that Michigan fans were down, dejected, shocked in that manner, oh my God, made me happy. I was loving life, and I obviously threw out a tweet that was maybe misinterpreted, but I was great, dude, because I knew right away that, the struggles upcoming for Michigan. Now, a couple hires could change the way I think, but at least for this upcoming year, I seriously think there's a chance they don't make the tournament. I think there's a strong chance 16 wins might be hard to come by.
I agree with you.
Now,
let me explain why.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the 3, I don't want to say stars, but you had 3
contributors,
ultra talented players just leave, okay? And no matter what you feel about Charles Matthews, the guy was a contributor. He was a key cog in that Michigan team, whether it be defensively or offensively. All that being said, John Beilein took this program from basically zero. Do you remember when John Beilein was hired? I was annoyed at the hire. I was like, why are you bringing this dude in from West? Why are we taking all of West Virginia's coaches? Like, why they weren't even able to win shit at West Virginia. Why are they coming here? I mean, that was my thought process, right? Because we took Rich Rod. It was the double scoop. It was Rich Rod and it was John Beilein. They both came in the same time. And I was like, who is this clown? And what's he doing? And do you remember the conversations we had when John Beilein first started running his offense?
Like, huh?
I hated it. I absolutely hated it because it was nothing like you've ever seen in Big Ten basketball to that point. Big Ten basketball was grind you down, grind you out. It's what Tom Izzo preached. It's what Tom Izzo did. You work the ball inside, then kick it out. You got a man in the low post. You're going to work around. That's what it was. Beilein's was different. It was, we're going to jack up a lot of threes. We're going to space the floor. And we're going to get the ball in talented guys' hands. And we're going to put them in positions to shoot the ball. And we're just going to shoot a lot. And some of them are going to go in. Some of them aren't. In those early years of Beilein basketball, a lot of them didn't go in. They weren't great teams. It just kind of was what it was. As the years kind of rolled on, you started to see what he was doing. He was putting his stamp on the program, and he was getting the guys who fit what he wanted to do. I think Beilein's only had like 2, maybe 3 5-star athletes. It might even be less. I'm not 100% sure. He hasn't really done it with the ultra-talented guys that a guy like Tom Izzo has nabbed, or a guy like Coach K has grabbed, or a guy like Calipari has grabbed. He hasn't done it with those guys. He's done it with mostly 3 and sometimes 4-star guys, and he gets the most out of them. It's absolutely insane to go back all those years and look at where this program was to where it's at now. And the fact that Michigan and Michigan State have this rivalry now. There was never a rivalry. Michigan State just ran roughshod over Michigan. If you were a Michigan fan and you enjoyed basketball, you hated Michigan State because they would just come in and they would pull your pants down and whip your butt. You didn't have that with Beilein. At least not later on. Maybe early on as he was kind of putting things together, but you didn't have that with Beilein. You were never, ever embarrassed. You were never embarrassed of this program. And I think that's probably the biggest stamp that John Beilein put on the Michigan program, and that's probably the most lasting effect. He took a program that was an absolute dumpster fire, an absolute abysmal heap of waste, and he made it relevant. And not just relevant, but good enough to get into the tournament and make it to Final Fours. Multiple. Not one, multiple Final Fours. So good that you would look at the Big Ten schedule and you say, all right, cool. So Michigan and Michigan State will probably finish 1-2, maybe 1-2-3. Either way, 2 of those schools are finishing in the top 3. And then you would look at how that's going to impact the rest of the tournament board, and you're like, okay, cool. Michigan is at least a 5 seed, and maybe they can do some damage.
Now, overall, Michigan fans should praise John Beilein because, by and large, he's the greatest basketball coach that you ever had. But I do think you can be critical of John Beilein. One, because he used Michigan and the NBA to leverage a better contract. Remember, he got an extension. Mm-hmm. So that interview with the Pistons was great in that he kind of got a taste. He kind of knew what was going to happen. He was maybe even close to being hired by the Pistons. So he used that to leverage, obviously with the success that he had, a better deal. And then he flirted with the NBA at the same time, right when, the critical time when Michigan needed him. Look, John Beilein was not going to get fired. He basically had a job for life because of what he's done. So in essence, I feel like he left at the worst possible time in terms of, preparing the program, because I think if it was going to be done right, and I know job opportunities, especially in the Midwest, aren't going to come that often, but I just think that in terms of Michigan fans, you should be upset because I think that Ward Manuel, a little bit, the way it kind of has been perceived, it was shocked and surprised, and that there doesn't seem to be...
I think all Michigan fans were shocked.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that John Beilein, if he was going to do things a little bit better, would have had maybe a couple names that would say, hey, these are the guys that I think could succeed me and really keep this going.
Okay, well, here's the thing, right? If Ward Manuel doesn't have names of guys who can pick up this program and keep it going, that's on Ward Manuel. Every AD should have at least 5 names for the football and for the basketball program and any other program. Just have them on the ready and be able to have conversations with those guys, be able to get them in to talk to them. So if not, that's on Ward Manuel. If you look at what John Beilein has done, though, and we're going to talk about who could be the ideal fit to take his spot a little bit later on, John Beilein was grooming coaches.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 assistants on his staff right now.
I think you and I might make the argument that those might be the names you should really look at instead of the big names.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll debate it. We'll talk about it.
We'll debate it.
But he's got guys on his staff right now who could take over. There's a guy over in Butler right now who is being groomed to be his replacement, because John Beilein's been talking about leaving for 5-6 years now. And I think when Detroit came calling last year, it opened his eyes. He was like, I'm a good enough coach where I could go there. I could do these things. And then you have the fallout from the entire Louisville scandal. You got your team to the finals, and you lost on a foul call to a team that used prostitutes to get players to commit. And what happened to them? What happened to that school? What happened to everything? What was the fallout from all of that? There really wasn't anything. And I think John Beilein realized, I can continue to compete against schools like that. I can continue to compete against schools like North Carolina, who have other people taking tests for basketball players, while my kids are getting ran through the ringer, making sure that they make their academic grades. I can compete with those guys, or I can compete with guys that are paying players buckets of money and have Adidas contracts and possibly soon to be Nike contracts. I could be continue to coach against guys like that make my life 10 times harder, or I can just go to the NBA. Obviously, the NBA wants me. Pistons interviewed me last year, and the Cavs come calling. And I think the Cavs job is actually a great fit for John Beilein. I think he looked at the lay of the land and he said, you know what? I don't need to deal with this shit anymore. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm tired of it. I had a heart procedure. Was it in October last year? No, it was last summer. It was, I want to say last May or June, he had a heart procedure. And I can continue to deal with that and stress myself out. And look, college coaching is 24/7, 365.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a lot of days. It really is. You really only get like Christmas.
It's a lot of work.
It is. You really only get like Christmas off, and maybe you get like a small day to decompress after you get booted from a tournament or you get done with your bowl game. However it works. You're constantly working. You're constantly recruiting. I can continue to keep recruiting, going and sitting in these parents' house and telling them what they want to hear to try to get their player to come over here and play for me. And then I got to keep their player on track and make sure nothing bad happens to them. And John Beilein did a great job of all of that. He did a fantastic job of it. And I don't think he regretted it. I don't think it bothered him at all. But you have to do those things. You have to be on top of all those things. Why bother with that? You don't have to. On top of that, you're going to get a bigger salary. All you have to do is coach these guys. These guys are going to show up every day to work. All right. And if they don't, you find them. Not your problem. That's more of a management problem. You're the coach. You coach these guys. You instill your system. Why I think the Cavs job is a great job for John Beilein. The Cavs have a guy who looks like he might be a star in Sexton. They've got Kevin Love, who I think his offense fits supremely perfect. All right. There's no big egos there. Kevin Love, say whatever you want to say about Kevin Love. There's no big ego there. There are no egos on that team. John Beilein gets to step in, and he's basically the big dog on campus. He doesn't have to fight with anybody. It's not like going to the Lakers where you've got to argue with LeBron for whatever it is that you need to do or whatever it is that you want. There's nobody who's going to basically say boo to him because he's the head coach. He gets to instill his offensive system, gets to instill his defensive system, and he gets to coach. He gets to coach these guys. I guarantee you, Cleveland will be a 10 to 15 game better team next year just because of John Beilein. I think it's great. On top of that, obviously, your owner came and got you. He's the guy who wanted you, so he's got your back. All right, and you can say whatever you want to say about Dan Gilbert. I think Dan Gilbert's a decent owner. I think sometimes he meddles a little too much. All that being said, I think this is an outstanding fit for John Beilein. I think Dan Gilbert and John Beilein will work fine together. I think that team is set up nicely for John Beilein. I think going into the other night's draft, I think he thought possibly we're going to get a top 3 player. You're going to get a top 5 player now. All right, so there's a bit of a difference here, a bit of a talent gap. But still, you're going to get a really good player to add to your team. I think they're in a fine spot. I really do.
And the mission is just get the guys to buy in. There is talent. Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson can at least help a little bit in terms of, filling in the gap. But in the end, year one, if you just get like 28 wins, 30 wins, maybe get like a top 10 pick again, then you have an opportunity year 2 and 3 to set things up. And you'll have, a bunch of young cats. And maybe potentially there's an opportunity to make a couple moves to reshape some things. But yeah, for John Beilein, it just makes sense. But in terms of the NBA, a 66-year-old head coach just doesn't seem like it's exactly the trend that, a lot of teams are doing. A lot of younger coaches, a lot of coaches that, have had a little bit of experience in the league in terms of being assistants from teams that kind of are successful, and then, you get hired in your first opportunity. But, what percentage chance do I think John Beilein has of being successful? I think over 50%.
Oh, for sure. Let me ask you this. His offense, do you think his offense is NBA caliber?
Guaranteed. Shoot a bunch of threes and teaches guys the proper way to execute the way to shoot a 3-point shot. Hey, if you can get these young cats to buy in drafts 1 and 2, no doubt about it.
His demeanor and the way he carries himself, does that translate with players in the NBA?
100%.
Exactly. And that's why I think he's going to have success. I think his offense and the way he utilizes his offense, like you said, shooting a lot of threes, spacing the floor, getting guys in open lanes, letting guys who are creative be creative. Guys love that. If you're a basketball player and your coach says, hey, you can do these things, go do these things, do all of them, be as creative as you want. If you know what I'm saying, we're going to take the shackles off you. You don't have to play a strict and stringent type of basketball. It's very fluid. I think players love that. I think that's why his offense will be successful. John Beilein, the way he carries himself, the guy doesn't swear. Like, seriously, he doesn't swear. Who does that? I just had 18 swear words to open this podcast. This guy doesn't swear. So he's going to demand your respect. He's going to treat you like a person, treat you like a human. He's going to talk to you, not talk down to you. I think that's important. I think that's very important. Players do not like to feel like they're beneath you or that you're demeaning them. This guy comes in and he's going to hold you accountable, but he's going to talk to you like you're a person. And I think that's what's most important for these guys. So I think instantly offense buys him credibility, and the way he handles his players buys him more credibility. Guys buy in. Guys want to do what he's asking on the court, and that's how you get wins. That's how you get production. And it's all about then getting guys and putting guys in spots to be talented and to let those talents show through. And I think that's going to happen in Cleveland. I think they're going to be a much better team next year.
Okay, my opinion would be in this search, I know that PR is very important in Michigan at this point in time, going from John Beilein to somebody else. You got to remember, though, Michigan really hasn't ever in the past 20 years had a big name, top of the line coach like a Tom Izzo at his stature now, someone like a Calipari, someone like a Patino. They've always had these guys that have been a little bit underrated. And look at the success that John Beilein had.
Right, but can you make the argument that John Beilein has elevated this job? This job used to be looked down upon. You had sanctions. You had coaches who would come in here, and it really felt like they didn't know how to coach. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, Brian Ellerby. Go back to, do you remember watching Brian Ellerby basketball? It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I remember tearing my hair out, you know? Tommy Amaker, I always felt like was a good coach. He just didn't get necessarily a fair shake, And then John Beilein comes in. And when John Beilein came in, I did not like John Beilein. I didn't understand it. I didn't like the offense. But he is a guy who took it, and I think he grew this position. I think this is now, I don't want to say it's an elite job because Duke's an elite job. North Carolina's an elite job.
Upper echelon.
Syracuse is an elite job.
My opinion would be that you have a coach.
I think it's that next tier underneath elite.
You have a coach on your staff right now that also helped John Beilein in terms of, changing a little bit too. Because remember, one facet of John Beilein's coaching that was not as strong as it's been the last 3 years has been the defense. One of the coaches that's been largely responsible for the defense and the evolution to get it top ranked nationally has been Luke Jokic. And so I'll look at it and say him or Sadi Washington, who's brought in a bunch of talent, who's got experience in terms of being an assistant coach. If you go with one of those two guys, I think you have the potential to keep this going, especially with guys that are already in the system. They know what's going on. They know the culture that's been built. My opinion would be if you want to keep this train rolling, hire one of those two guys, you'll be okay. Somebody from the outside, it might take a year or two of a transition to get the guys that he wants and the system that needs to be built. So for me, I would go with Jokic or Sadi Washington, and you keep this train rolling, and I think you guys would be okay.
Let me ask you this. Is there anything that says you can't keep those two guys on the roster? Nope. Nope, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I would be so upset if it's one of those two guys who are named the head coach.
Really?
Yeah. Now, Sadi Washington is a great recruiter, does a phenomenal job with that. He was the guy who, when Beilein had his heart procedure, he was the one who took over the coaching reins, took over the team when they went on their trip. Now, Jokic comes in and
20 years experience
really catapults that defense, makes that defense number 2 only to Texas Tech. And that's where I'm going with the guy who I want. I want Chris Beard.
I don't want Chris Beard.
I want Chris Beard.
Right.
That defense was sick. I think you have the pieces here. If you get Chris Beard here,
no.
And you can keep Jokic, dude. Seriously?
No.
It'd be absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. On top of that, here's the thing.
Now, being self-serving here.
Yes, of course.
Because obviously, Michigan State played Texas Tech and looked like they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
It's all right. Michigan couldn't either. Chris Beard just signed a contract with Texas Tech.
Nice money too.
Signed a 5-year extension. So if you're Michigan, you have to dig into your purse strings and open those up a little bit and then pay that buyout to get him here. So it's going to be expensive.
No.
It's going to be expensive. There's another guy though. Go to Butler. Lavelle Jordan.
He's had a rough couple years from what you read.
Here's the thing. Lavelle Jordan was being groomed to be Beilein's replacement. He was going to be the guy. He goes to Butler. And
last place finish, you're impressed with that?
No, I'm not. But that was the guy that Beilein deemed worthy. And he now has his head coaching, he basically has cut his teeth head coaching wise. You know what I'm saying? I think Lavelle Jordan could come back, and I don't know if he wants to because he went to Butler. Same thing with Chris Beard. I think Chris Beard is a Texas native, I think he might even went to Texas Tech. So I don't know if you can pull these guys from their alma maters. I'm not even sure if you can do it or not. I mean, it becomes a tough road to hoe there, but you can't make the argument to me that the Michigan job isn't more prestigious than or the Texas Tech job or the Butler job isn't more prestigious than the Michigan job. The Michigan job is hands down more prestigious than both of those, right? I mean, I don't think you can argue that. But I don't know. I don't want Sadie Washington, and I don't want Luke Yacic as the new head coach. I would be happier. Let me put it this way: I'd be happier if you went out and you got Bobby Hurley, or you got a guy like Shaka Smart. Remember what Shaka Smart did with VCU, right? Before he went to Texas. Crazy. I would be much happier with one of those two guys.
I'd be happy if you guys also went out and got Brad Stevens. I think that's a name, too.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, a guy that's been in the national title picture.
What about Billy Donovan? Everybody talks about Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan's a lame duck coach at Oklahoma City right now.
I just think that
you got to deal with Westbrook.
Yeah, there's an extreme risk.
Do you want to come back to coaching?
See, that name, Billy Donovan, along with Pitino, are the ultimate risk rewards. Whereas
I don't want
guys,
Pitino.
There's an opening potentially to scandal with Donovan and
here's the thing.
Pitino.
Is Donovan... Do you say Donovan's open to scandal because he comes from the SEC?
Of course.
And it's the Wild Wild West?
Of course.
Because I don't think there's anything ever been lobbed at Donovan.
He just looks like a guy that wants
Well, he does.
He looks like a guy that wants to slap 100 in some kid's hand.
He does. He really does.
He'll look at you and be like, Adam, what up, brother? Here's some news you can take back to DFN. And then you realize he's totally lying, totally making it up.
I mean, he looks like he's part of a mob family. He really does. Him and Calipari. And Patino.
Exactly.
Like Patino's the godfather of it. Calipari's the sergeant,
Exactly.
and then you got the underling who's Billy Donovan.
And now look, okay, I'll ask this because
But look, Billy Donovan there are no allegations against Billy Donovan. Let's just be clear.
Exactly. I'll ask you this, okay? Knowing that, okay, we don't have to use the name Patino, but let's say you do get a nationally, high-ranked coach that at this point in time is realizing the landscape of college basketball, and that's the reason why John Beilein left. Let's say, he does bring in some of these big-name athletes, and there's question marks like, okay, how's this athlete coming to Michigan? This guy doesn't seem like he's going to fit the mold exactly, but he can drop 20 points and 10 rebounds a game. Would you be willing to take a coach that might potentially, in 5 years after you win the national title, might come back and say, look, there was some scandal. You get the celebration. You get the guaranteed national title. But there is an upper chance, maybe 75% or more, that some money was, changing hands and maybe some improprieties, maybe with girls, maybe with grades, maybe with certain amenities that you're not supposed to get, you get. Would you be willing, to have a guy like that in 5 years after was discovered that he cheated?
Let me put it to you like this. There is something to be said about doing it clean. There's something awesome about saying, hey, I don't have to worry about my coach and the FBI and these probes that are going on. Everybody comes out and says that John Beilein has done it the cleanest. He's cleaner than your guy. All right? Yep. That's the rules, and that's what everybody says, okay? Everybody has come out and said, Beilein's cleaner than Izzo. I don't know what that means about Izzo, but Beilein's cleaner than Izzo. And everybody holds Izzo to this high regard that he is a saint when it comes to not paying players, not doing things the corrupt way. All right? Something to be said about being spick and span, spotless. You don't have to worry about your program doing those things. And you don't have to be considered shady, and you don't have to be considered a scumbag because of whatever. All that being said, I think it was on Monday when all this stuff broke. We're talking about, somehow we got on this was Friday. Friday, we on Big Drew and Jim, you guys listen, 11:30 WDFN, we were talking about college coaches and where they rank. And I made the comment that if Jim Harbaugh doesn't beat Ohio State this year, you need to consider firing him. And then somehow Urban Meyer got brought up, and I was like, go get him. I don't care. I know he's a scumbag. I know he cheats. I don't care. I want a national championship. I want a national championship for my football and my basketball team. So at this point, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Just go freaking win one already.
Thank you.
I'm tired of coming close. I'm tired of always being the bridesmaid. At some point, this goddamn bride wants to be fucking walked across the threshold and needs her fucking man to say, I do. That's where I'm at right now, all right? I'm tired of wearing the dress that doesn't match fucking, it's not the white one. I'm tired of it.
Exactly.
I really am. I'm sick and tired. I don't care.
Okay.
Go get me the coach that's going to win me a championship. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Best wishes to John Beilein. Best wishes to Michigan. Ward Manuel's got a tough job. National search firm is going to scour the landscape of the United States to find the best coach. I think Michigan's in okay hands. I just think that maybe this next year might be the struggle in terms of the transition.
Can we talk about next year real quick?
Yeah, 1 year I think struggle. 1 year struggle.
I think next year is going to be brutal.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be rough. You have the draft class that's coming in, decent, pretty good. All right. But you have no idea who your head coach is. So now you're going to have guys who may transfer.
Yep.
Because the transfer portal becomes immediately open for these guys without any restrictions.
And despite your optimism, I think Luke and Sadi will be gone when the new head coach is named.
I agree with you. 100%. My whole thing is you can keep those guys if the new coach wants to. But I think next year is going to be tough. You're not sure who's going to stay from this recruiting class. You're not sure who the head coach is. It's going to be difficult. You just lost 3 players who were essential to last season. So how do you replace that production, that productivity? You know, the one thing you do have is you have Xavier Simpson, who's a point guard. You've got Isaiah Livers, who, when healthy, the issue is when healthy, the guy's a killer. He's got a great shot. So you've got pieces here. You do have pieces. It's just you now have to find other guys that complement what they do, and you need to figure out who that coach is, and you need to figure out who's staying and who's going. This is a horrible time for John Beilein to have made this decision.
Tough time.
You have a lot of coaches already getting signing extensions. It puts Michigan in a tough spot, because if there is a guy that you want and is willing to come, you now have to pay that buyout. So it becomes that much more expensive.
Cha-ching.
So here's a 5-year deal at this amount.
And the buyout.
And now here's
university.
the buyout. Right. So now we've got to pay $24 million to the school who had you under contract. It becomes very, very messy. If any of you like soccer, it's very similar to trading for a guy. Do you know what I'm saying? You got to pay all this money to get the guy to
just
come
for the right to negotiate.
Right, exactly. It's absolutely nuts. So here's 180 million euros just so we can talk to Neymar. All right, cool.
Nice. Woo. All right, stay with us. Right after the break, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions. Always post-draft, there's a lot of things to get into, and right now, a lot of people are speculating regarding what's going to actually happen with the Detroit Lions. Where are they at? What are these draft picks actually going to do? Now we've had a lot more time to read, and we're going to give our thoughts regarding Matt Patricia's appearance on Good Morning Football. Always love talking Lions with my cuz. Stay with us right after this. DocNJock here for the Motor City Pawn Brokers, a great sponsor of the network. The Motor City Pawn Brokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality brand name new and pre-owned merchandise. With 4 locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all information regarding the Motor City Pawn Brokers, go check out MotorCityPawnBrokers.com. Now, Adam, we've just spent 40 minutes talking about John Beilein. But if you want to...
That long?
Yeah, if you want to carry the conversation over, if you want to check out and see what other Detroit fans are thinking, go check out the Flick application. It's real quick, real simple. All you got to do is use the invite link. At this point in time, it's a special invite link only. Go check out all the various social media platforms that we're on. Search Detroit Sports Podcast. You'll find the invite link. Click it, boom, you'll sign up within minutes, and you can have ongoing chats regarding professional wrestling, Detroit sports. We talked all about John Beilein and the similar things that we talked about on this podcast. We're going to carry over and have conversations real time with the fans in Detroit, and I think it's a great application, super easy. Everybody that signed up so far has loved it. I mean, it's just a great way to, if you're into group chats and you're into hanging out with your buddies, just a way to also be part of the local Detroit sports scene on a bigger level. The Flick application is a great sponsor of the network, and we really enjoy using it. Adam, myself, all the hosts here, we definitely are engaged, and we're trying to continue the thought process and really engage with our followers through Flick, and I really like it.
Guys, it's like a straight line right to us. Anything you want to talk about, off the top of your head, it could be just the most topical conversation that's swirling around your water cooler at your workplace. You want to get reactions, you want to talk to John or myself, or you just want other people who are Detroit sports fans. It's right there for you.
Detroit Sports' newest headquarters, Flick. Feel free to join. It's invite only at this time.
see this breaking news about the Jets?
Yeah, they fired the general manager after the draft.
After the draft.
That's kind of stupid, don't you think?
Then they make their head coach the interim general manager. What?
The New York general managers out there, I don't know what's going on. Makes us appreciate at least that Bob Quinn is somewhat professional. Now, can we critique some of the moves that he's made? Yeah. Is it going to be a situation where when we evaluate what he's done, is it going to be pass or fail? It's yet to be determined, but I think there's more stability with what's going on in Detroit than what the hell's going on with the Jets and the Giants.
If you ever think you have it bad, if you ever think that it sucks for you as a Lions fan, because it does suck to be a Lions fan. It really does, guys. But right now, just go look at what's going on in New York. The Jets and the Giants are both dumpster fires. Absolute crap. Jets just fire their general manager, promote their head coach, who, by all accounts, when he was in Miami, was a total asshat and rubbed players wrong all the time. Yet this is going to be the guy who's going to be your general manager. On top of it, too, he's an offensive guy. Like, this guy doesn't really know a whole lot. I mean, I'm sure he knows a little bit about defense, but he's an offensive guy. He's an offensive-minded head coach. His whole thing was, I'm really good with quarterbacks. That's how he basically got his head coaching job. He was a QB's coach. Never really an offensive coordinator, though. So, he's your new general manager. All the dude knows is one side of the ball. Interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting. Now, Matt Patricia, I'm thankful that Dish Network still carries the NFL Network because it seems like AT&T and DirecTV are having issues. And NFL Network is just not available to certain members of society. And unfortunately for them, hey, I got lucky. I got a chance to see Matt Patricia on Good Morning Football. It was great. They definitely did their homework. They were excited. Matt Patricia actually looked very excited at 7:50 in the morning. He was talking all about kind of early on, he was talking about his transition now in this offseason as opposed to what it was like his first offseason. And I think he was candid. He was honest. He said his first offseason was full catch-up mode because of the fact that the Patriots were just coming off of the Super Bowl. He's just coming in as the head coach, and you got to start worrying about the draft, the talent, all that stuff. So he felt like last year was full-on catch-up mode, whereas this year he's in line, he knows what he wants to do, and he feels a lot more comfortable in terms of setting up the organization, setting up what he wants to do. There were a lot of interesting and noteworthy things that he said, but one of the comments made by Matt Patricia on this appearance was the fact that, the female host, she came on and was really solid, and she was like, look, there's a lot of talk in terms of the success level for the other teams in the NFC North, but I don't really hear much about Detroit. And he just flat out smiled big and he said, you know what? I love it. I love the fact that we're not being talked about. I love the fact that the other teams in the North are being talked about. Now, it was a media answer, but I found it interesting in that I know the Lions want to take an underdog role, but you can't take that role forever, especially when your organization isn't known for success. There's a time when you realize, okay, if the press for the last 10 years is dogging you and they're grading your drafts as C's, and you're coming out there with, seasons where you don't make the postseason, where, last year we kind of clowned around on those people that said 4 wins. They actually ended up with 6. Eventually, we do have to start believing the pundits who say the Lions are going to struggle. And after this draft, because I'm a little bit more concerned because the noise level, the pressure seems to be ramped up, and many people just don't believe that this draft really helped the Detroit Lions. And especially when you look at where they're starting from, they were already behind the 8 ball a little bit. Did they do enough to surpass the Bears? Did they do enough to surpass the Vikings? Did they do enough to surpass the Green Bay Packers? I don't think so. So I'm really, really getting nervous a little bit here, especially when you realize, okay, if you just look, tight ends drafted in the first round in their first year don't do a heck of a lot. If they get 400 yards, it's like a miracle. They don't even get that many touches. On average, tight ends just don't produce at the level of a Gronkowski their first year. Gronkowski really is an outlier. When you look at the production level of tight ends that are drafted in the first round, there's all these guys kind of in the middle, like 20 catches, 300 yards, okay? And then you have Rob Gronkowski, who had like 10 touchdowns and had a massive, massive rookie season and impact. So you look at it and you go, okay, what impact is Hockenson going to have? Is he really going to be able to block that well in terms of being able to give Kerryon Johnson the opportunity to have success? So, yeah, I understand that it's good to take the us against the world mentality, but for once, I would like for us to be able to puff out our chest regarding our football team.
I agree with you.
We can't.
You can't.
We have to worry and panic all the time.
This team had so many holes going into the draft.
Too many.
I don't know how, unless you just like traded back a whole bunch and just acquired picks. But at that point, are you really getting the best player available for that position? Probably not. and then we're going to persecute this team because they traded back and they were drafting guys, like 4 guys in the 3rd round who might pan out. Look, I get that Matt Patricia likes being the underdog, and I like the fact that nobody's talking about him because he thinks it makes him sneaky. You're not sneaky. You're not. Like, we all see what's going on here. You went out and you got Darren Bevel, and you got a whole bunch of tight ends. So you're going to run 2 tight end sets. This is what's going to happen. You're going to run 2 tight end sets. You're going to try to handcuff Matt Stafford. So the guy who has a rocket for an arm, that's the one thing everybody talks about and how he's dangerous and how he's lethal. You're going to put handcuffs and shackles on him. And you're going to force him to hand off the ball to Kerryon Johnson, who is a running back who hasn't been able to make it through an entire season, whether it be collegiate or pro, healthy. It's great. And the one running back that you did go get, you grabbed him in the 4th round, and he's quick and he's speedy, and he looks like he might be okay. But there was another guy who was there who came from a little bit of a better program and looked to be a little bit more complete that you passed on out of Notre Dame. All right, great. Now let's look at defense. Yeah, you went and you signed the best defensive end on the free agent market. Cool. That's good. And you were able to backload his contract, which was probably going to bite you in the ass later. Great. But what'd you do for your linebacking core? You got some dude out of Hawaii, and you probably reached and grabbed him a little bit too early. Awesome. What about that opposite cornerback position? Yeah, I think you got a steal in the 5th round there. But is he going to come in and produce right away? I'm not sure. Not sure. I hope so, because he looks like he could be really, really good. This was a guy who could have possibly went in the 2nd round. You got him in the 5th. So good job on your general manager there for grabbing that guy. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you like to have interchangeable pieces, and look, our defensive front's going to change every week, and we're gonna do defense for scheme fit, and we're gonna take away whatever it is that they do best. Cool. I get the Patriot way. I understand it. You know what the problem is with the Patriot way? Only the Patriots can do the Patriot way. It's basically Bill Belichick. Everybody who has essentially fallen off the Bill Belichick coaching tree or general manager tree, they're not real great at their jobs. I don't know if anybody realizes this or not. On top of all that, Patriots don't do a great job drafting. They really don't. Go look at their draft picks. Just go. The one thing the Patriots do really, really well on draft day is move back. And you know why they get to move back? Because years ago, in the 6th round, they took this gangly, awkward-looking quarterback out of the University of Michigan who didn't look like he was going to amount to a whole bunch. But at the time, you didn't need him to amount to anything. Do you know why? Because you had Drew Bledsoe. Your team was set. You guys were good. Everything was going to work out just fine. Guess what? Drew Bledsoe got hurt. Guess what happened? That gangly, weird-looking kid had a chip on his shoulder, came in and lit the league up. He's been lighting the league up for years now. That's why you can draft like an absolute dumpster fire and still be competitive and make it to the Super Bowl.
Do you think that we have to be patient with Matt Patricia, similar to Michigan fans that had to be patient with John Beilein? Do you feel like if you give Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn 5-6 years to at least instill a system, that there's a upper echelon chance that they can have success? Do you think he has to feel the heat in year 2? Otherwise, do you say to yourself, man, might he make decisions that might be detrimental to the Lions this year in terms of, pushing just to get to the playoffs? Sometimes, as fans, obviously we're starved. We're like, just do whatever you can, get to the postseason. And obviously you and I have posted on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, playoffs are bust. Mm-hmm. And we're entertaining that idea that maybe because, Rod Wood said that Martha Ford is not patient, that, hey, maybe she'll entertain the notion of firing them this year. But, I'm kind of also debating in my mind, hey, if you give him 5 years, what's the likelihood that he'll have success? I mean, he's been part of a winner. He's worked with Bob Quinn. There's a chance that they could actually turn this around if given time. But you know what? The heat's on because of the fact that, each and every administration with the Lions is going to be burdened by the toxic history, and it's like 5,000 pounds. You can't shed it unless you get a couple playoff wins this year. But
can I feed it a probiotic and hopefully it just poops out its insides?
If there's a football Viagra out there, please just take it. Do something to, get lucky this year and get some playoff success.
I like how I'm going with the back. You're going with the front.
But I think that, I want to give Matt Patricia time, but at the same time, this is the NFL. You're paying Matthew Stafford a boatload of money. You got to have success because we're all starved for it, and we can't have another year where you get 4 or 5 wins. You have to progress. And I think that's where he is feeling the heat because the nature of the job. But I do think that if you give Matt Patricia time, I think that he should be able to have some level of success with this organization. Are we being a little impatient with this talk of win now for Matt Patricia in terms of the 2019 season? Too much?
No, I don't think so. Because, all right, let me ask you this, all right? Do you like what Bob Quinn has done in basically his 3 years as general manager?
I like what he's done, 50% of the draft. I like some moves in free agency, but also there are some moves that have been toxic. Like you paid
it's
Rick
a bit
Wagner,
of a mixed bag, right?
Yeah, you paid Rick Wagner a bunch of money. He hasn't produced. TJ Lang was an absolute disaster. Some of the draft picks that you realize, T. Tabor, you could have had another productive player in the second round. You've had reaches, in terms of guys that you brought here that didn't do well. And then you realize, okay, you let go of Eric Ebron only to kind of search for another Eric Ebron.
Right.
So it's really tough in terms of other guys leaving and then producing. So, at this point in time, like I said, I grade him, in the neighborhood of a C+, B-, but I need more. We need more to get over the hump.
So going into this year, I was okay with a lot of what Bob Quinn has done. I really felt like Bob Quinn did a good job trying to put this team in a position to win. I liked a lot of the moves that he made during the draft. Some moves I scratched my head about. Turns out on some of those I was wrong. Turns out some of the moves that he made, he was wrong. All that being said, I really felt like Bob Quinn listened to the guys around him. He did a great job putting guys around him. This year I felt like Bob Quinn thought he was the smartest guy in the room, especially with some of the moves that he made during the draft. All right. All that being said, Bob Quinn is the one who came out and said 9-7 is a failure. We can't have 9-7.
That's the right thing to say. Yeah, the goal is to get to the playoffs, win it, and get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Titles, baby. Lombardis.
That's the right thing to say. That's now the standard. So, if I'm Matt Patricia, and I fell way short of that standard last year, 9-7 is a standard. I fell way short of it last year. Yeah, you better feel some pressure. You need to be shooting for at least 10 wins. I don't care if you necessarily make the playoffs, because you can miss the playoffs with 10 wins.
With 9 wins, too.
It happens. It does. It really does happen. But you need to be shooting for 10 wins.
We need signs. We need signs.
Yeah, 9-7
signs
is the standard. 9-7 is the standard, right? So you have to be at least that, if not better. On top of all that, the eyeball test tells me a ton. If I can watch your game and I say, hey, okay, cool, I see a lot of progress here, or I'm seeing some regression here, and I'm seeing more regression over here. If that's the case, then yeah, we have a big issue, and you might have to go after only 2 years. I think Bob Quinn has painted himself into a little bit of a corner here with that one comment. He painted himself into a corner because
so I ask you,
he let it be known. Hold on. He let it be known that we will not settle for this. We need to be better. The whole purpose of him going out and bringing Matt Patricia in, who both you and I believe he wanted Matt Patricia here since day one, but he had to get some things worked out with Martha real quick. On top of all that, I think he bought himself a year. I think he bought himself an extra year, maybe 2, by keeping Jim Caldwell around.
So on our Twitter page, at Detroit Podcast, I asked the question, what is the one sign of progress that the Detroit Lions could show you in 2019? One sign that tells you, okay, things are maybe moving in a forward direction. For me, it's not going to be wins in playoffs. It's going to be execution on both sides of the ball. Less mistakes, look like a team that actually belongs on the field. Look, you know what? It takes time to build talent. It takes time to build depth. I just don't want to see 3rd and 1 false starts.
Right.
I just don't want to see the fact that it's 3rd and 18 and you allow 19-yard passes. I just want to see less mistakes. I want to see more consistent execution, a lot more. And in years past, we all see it. We all see times when the Lions shoot themselves in the foot by missing field goals that are like 30 yards. They have holding calls at the worst possible time. They allow plays that are unheard of, Hail Marys. We've seen weird-ass shit with the Lions. I just want to see more consistent execution that leads me to believe, okay, the system in place might work. I want to see sacks. I want to see turnovers. I want to see, situations where the simple plays are made. Just make the basic plays and don't look like you're amateurs out there on the field. Don't start a game down 9-0 and look like you don't belong in the first quarter and then come back in the fourth. More consistent execution would be the one sign for me.
I want good, efficient football. And by good, efficient football, you know what good football looks like. It's like you said, right? It's 3rd and 1. You're not stymied. You don't take a loss. You get the 1 yard, right? Defensively, you're holding them to 3rd and 1. You don't give up that yard. You push them back 2 or 3 yards. I want good, efficient football. I don't want you coming off the field because you tried to force a ball into double coverage and now you threw a pick 6.
Yeah.
I don't want stuff like that.
Or you get a pick 6 and take it to the house and then there's a block in the back. That's stupid.
Exactly. I want good football. That's it. And you know good football when you see good football. That's what I need. And I think that shows growth from this team because let's be honest, last year there were a ton of issues. And it seemed like a lot of stuff got straightened away as the season kind of wore on. But all that being said, you shot yourself in the foot early on and you made it impossible to climb out of that hole. You made it impossible to move forward and to be a really productive football team. If you go back to the Miami game, I think the Miami game was probably Detroit's most complete game last year, if I remember correctly. And they looked awesome on both sides of the ball. And then Kerryon Johnson got hurt. And it really derailed that offense because they're trying to go to this power run team. While the rest of the league is going to an air raid attack, Detroit's going back to a power run team, which makes you scratch your head. Like, what the hell's going on? Why is the rest of the league up on this? But we're over here. We're going to take the DeLorean and we're going to go back to the future, baby.
Some early quick interaction based on my question. Kot Scoval gets in and says, running the football. And AJ Varsity writes us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. He says, better pass defense. Okay, I think it's a good question. Yeah. I think one in which a lot of people could have a lot of different answers in terms of what progress could look like. But it doesn't have to be wins. It doesn't have to be the playoffs.
Do you see the issue with both of those, though? Those are things that I mentioned early on, right?
Yeah.
So running the ball, okay, Kerryon Johnson has to stay healthy. You don't really have, I wouldn't say you have a legit number two. I like C.J. Anderson, and C.J. Anderson says he's going to come in better shape. C.J. Anderson did a great job last year. I don't know if you get that same production from him this year. I'm not sure if it translates. I don't know. Better pass defense, right? Yeah, you didn't really go out there and solidify that second corner, did you? I mean, we're going to see what happens here with rookie minicamp and then OTAs, and as we make our way through the preseason. But you didn't really lock that position down. You really didn't. You went out and you got a nickel corner. And it seems like you have a whole bunch of nickel and dime cornerbacks opposite of Darius Slay. Let's see what happens with all of that.
Okay, real quickly, because we're going to talk about Hard Knocks to end the show. Besides TJ Hawkinson, who we alluded to might not have the biggest numbers, his biggest contribution probably is going to be for blocking for Kerryon Johnson. Besides Hawkinson, which rookie do you think could have an impact this year? What name kind of rings out to you that, okay, this guy could produce and help the cause?
For me, Austin Bryant, the defensive end, I just see him being put in a spot playing on that defensive front where he's going to be able to get to the quarterback. And he's going to be put in a primetime position where he can rush opposite of Trey Flowers. You've got that interior of that defense is sick. You know, Snacks is a monster. Deshaun Hand was mind-blowing last year. You know what I'm saying? Awesome on Bob Quinn to move up and grab him. Also, I still like A'Shawn Robinson. I know he's got a bad attitude, doesn't really like the media, usually runs around like he's Captain Grumpy Pants. I think that defensive line is sick. I think you put Austin Bryant alongside that, makes it that much better. I think he's going to be the one guy who's going to really stand out as a rookie. Honestly, I don't even think TJ Hawkinson's going to stand out all that much. You might get some good blocks from him when he's playing along the line, but we talked about it. Tight ends don't really produce all that much.
Not in year one.
No, it's usually 30, maybe 40 receptions, a couple hundred yards, and maybe 4 scores. Yeah. You know, I mean, you invested a first-round pick in that. You know, if I'm getting that out of a second-round tight end, all right, cool, bet all day long. And I get an elite defensive player, yeah, sign me up all day.
I'm going to go outside the box. I think it's going to be Jelani Tavai. I think he's going to come in, understand the system.
What?
This is a pick that screams Matt Patricia, Bob Quinn. He's got to come in and he's got to understand the system. If they went out and scouted him, if they went out and took the time.
They spent a lot of time scouting him, too. That came out after the fact.
If they took that time to go out there, then he must be a fit. Now, does he struggle at certain things? Yeah. He's not fast, not as athletic as we would like, but I would say this. He must be a fit if they went out and sacrificed that high of a pick to get him. So I think he'll come in and contribute to a level where we say, oh, maybe we were wrong. Maybe ESPN, maybe DocNJock, maybe some of the podcasts in town are going to be like, maybe we were wrong in the talent evaluation of this linebacker. Damn it, we need a second-round pick. I'm going to force it to happen. We need a second-round pick to contribute right away, and I think he's going to be somebody that's going to turn heads and say, oh, maybe he'll destroy some gaps. Maybe he'll make some plays. Maybe he'll just do some things impactfully.
Blow some dudes up.
He'll blow some dudes up that'll make us go, okay, we were wrong about this guy.
Let me ask you this.
Jelani Tavai, baby, I'm calling you out. Handle your business, boy.
So Jelani Tavai, this is a pick that it's going to either cripple this draft or it's going to elevate
the
it
whole
to elite
tenure.
status.
The whole tenure,
right?
yes.
It all comes down to this one pick, which is really unfair for him.
Yes,
it's very unfair for him. But would you have felt better if somehow Bob Quinn was able to trade back 5, 6 spaces?
He didn't do it. He didn't
I know. But what if he was able to trade back a little bit?
Yeah, it'd be great if he got more value.
Still grab this guy and then add another additional pick somewhere down the road.
Of course.
Would it be okay? Would that have softened this blow a little bit for you? Because I'm serious here. Because when this pick happened, I was driving on the road and I almost crashed because I was like, "What?" I was like, "This has to be a mistake." He's got a 5th round grade on him.
Oh, no.
Like, nobody knew who this guy was, right? Nobody. But I'm a freaking loser, and I read all these magazines, and I read all these guys who scout all these other guys, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm like, he's got a 5th round grade, guys. Like, he has a 5th round grade. Maybe high-end 4th round. I was like, but he has a 5th round grade. I was talking to Drew and Jim and Fongers in the group chat, and I was like, what are they doing? This guy's a loser. He's got a 5th round grade. What are we doing? Nobody even knows who the hell this cat is. Yeah, no, it was real life. Real life.
It happened.
But if he was able to move back, I think the outcry would still be there. Everybody would be like, what the hell are you doing? But you got some additional value. I think that would have made it a little bit easier.
All right, you're hearing rumors, rumblings. Maybe you want to put it out there in the atmosphere that it's not going to be the Raiders. It's not going to be the Redskins. It's going to be the Detroit Lions that get the love from HBO. Now, Matt Patricia did look all smiley, cuddly with the NFL. He looks like he's dropped a couple pounds. Maybe the Lions are making more efforts to engage with the media and allow more access. But do you think it's to the level where HBO could come in? Now, if we think about it objectively, all right, the Matthew Stafford situation with his family, if he's willing to talk about it, would be great television. If they've already started the process maybe of going into the home, talking to his wife, that kind of level of drama would play on national television. But would Stafford allow for that to happen? Are the Lions, could they tell enough stories other than the fact that they suck and are the worst franchise in the history of the NFL? Could they tell a real dramatic story that could engage the audience? Not to the level of the Raiders, baby. Oh, hell no. I would be disappointed, actually, in terms of entertainment value. I think that it would just be one big, huge publicity stunt that the Lions would get if they were on Hard Knocks. So you messaged me and we said, I said, oh, it's going to be the Raiders. It has to be the Raiders. John Gruden, AB. Dude, AB could roll in with a private jet, bling, bling, all day long. The entertainment value. Oh, my God. The new draft picks. Oh, my God. In terms of Mike Mayock, who knows the system, could game it and have a good time with it. It's got to be the Raiders, baby. They can't. If you just look at it, what producer in their right mind is going to choose the Lions over the Raiders? The Raiders say Hard Knocks. The Raiders. It has to be the Raiders. It can't be the Lions. Now, could the Lions spice it up a little bit? Could we make a star out of Darius Slay all day, baby? Could they go into a recording studio with Marvin Jones and, eat some bunt cakes? That's fine. But, I don't want to really see Matthew Stafford's charitable efforts. You know what I mean? We know that already. We know that he helps out around the community and stuff like that. I want to know what goes on with AB. I want to know what he's like when he sits in a meeting room talking about John Gruden. It would be way more entertaining to see the Raiders. Has to be the Raiders. It won't be the Lions. It won't be.
I think there's a strong possibility it could be the Raiders. But the way this is setting up, this screams Lions to me all day long.
Why?
So you've got the whole drama with Matt Stafford and his wife, right?
That's good if they let him talk about it, yeah.
And Kelly Stafford is, love her or hate her, she's as much a part of Matt Stafford on this Lions football team as Matt Stafford is a part of this Lions football team. It's just what it is. You've got interesting guys on that defense, right? You mentioned Darius Slay. Darius Slay is so much fun to talk to.
Yeah.
He's so much fun to listen to.
When you can understand what he's saying.
Yes, he speaks his own language. It's absolutely crazy. But he's interesting. He is funny, too. He's got a great sense of humor.
Yep.
Trey Flowers is a guy who doesn't necessarily have an issue with the media, as well as Snacks. Snacks puts himself out there more than just about any Detroit Lions player I know. It's crazy.
Dude, I would love to see, though, what the rookies would do in the rookie day. Do they make fun of Patricia? Do they make fun of Martha? Do they sing songs? That'd be kind of funny to see what they would do. It's a good show. Hard Knocks is great, but would the Lions allow the access to be more than just PR?
Plus you've got an extremely, extremely controversial first-round pick.
Yeah.
One that has basically divided the Lions fan base in TJ Hawkinson.
No, the story would be Jelani. I think that what you do
Well,
is
Jelani would be too.
you sit him
See, look
down.
at that. Look,
you
you've
sit
got a
him down.
first and a second round
You sit
pick.
him down and you go, look, Jelani, ESPN, here's your draft pick. They don't even have video of you, bro. What's that like? All that dramatic music. Jelani, you were drafted in the second round.
What's that like?
What's that like? You had nobody that knew who you were. Play some clips of, the radio going, what the hell? We'll send some clips to the producers being like, what the hell are you guys doing? No, this is terrible. I still haven't seen the video of you crying about the draft yet. You haven't aired it yet. Where is it? Where is it?
I'm looking for it. I'm waiting on them to. I'm waiting on the.
Dude, just do it. We'll air it.
I don't have it. I wasn't the one who filmed me. I was the one being filmed. I'm waiting on. Her name was Sarah. Sarah over at ESPN 961. I'm waiting on her. I don't know. I keep asking Drew. I'm like, Drew, do we have the video? Where's the video?
Yeah.
Can I get the video? Send me the video. Can you tag me in the video? I want the video. I'm waiting on it still. I'm waiting. Let me continue real quick.
What's the pros? Tell me the pros for
There's
the
no
Lions being
pros
on Hard Knocks.
There's no pros to be on Hard Knocks. None
Really?
whatsoever. No. What? How can you sell being on Hard Knocks as a good thing? One, it's disruptive. Two, it's intrusive. You've heard stories. You've heard stories of how other teams have watched Hard Knocks and gleamed, gleam stuff because of what you see inside the training rooms.
Yeah.
So how is Hard Knocks good for you? It's not. It's absolutely not. I mean, I think the one thing that's entertaining or what good could come out of it is you get a more human side of Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia had a real rough year last year. Absolutely brutal year last year. All of his confrontations with the media, him addressing Michael Rothstein and telling him to sit up, the whole thing with having the guys practice in the snow when you're going to the desert.
The late meetings.
Right.
Being tardy.
Never showing up on time. I think you see a more human side of Matt Patricia. I think that's the one good thing that could come out of this. Also, you get to see a little bit behind the scenes with Bob Quinn. Bob Quinn has been very, very good about speaking with the media.
He's professional.
He does. He is. You never got that with Martin Mayhew, and you definitely didn't get that with Matt Millen, and you didn't get that with a lot of the other guys who had his seat before him. So he's been pretty good about that. He doesn't give you a ton of time, but he does give you time, and he does speak to the media.
Wouldn't it be funny if Rod Wood was like a freak? Like he likes to like all of a sudden you realize
HBO's getting that?
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden we realize, damn, Rod Wood likes to hunt, and they just like he destroys some kind of deer, or like he's out there hunting.
That's not what I was thinking. I was thinking Rod Wood makes special guest, makes a special guest appearance wearing like an extra strap on or something.
No,
got a butt plug in his butt running around.
No, okay. I think Rod Wood could come away being like the hero of this, like with the big gun.
The hero.
Yeah, he could be the hero. Like he's like all of a sudden, like
are we fantasy booking the
by
HBO
day
Hard Knocks with the Detroit Lions?
By day, Rod Wood super professional. By night, he's like in the club taking shots, and then he loves guns. He's on Twitter. He's on Twitter.
He loves guns.
He loves like he's like dude, I want to hang out with Rod Wood. Rod Wood, been tasked to run the organization. Many don't know. He loves himself some guns. They do these little special features of their hobbies and stuff away from the.
They call him Big Rod Wood.
Big Rod Wood. Exactly.
We're so stupid. I hope you guys are laughing because we're dying right now.
All right, great podcast, episode 302. Oh, you know what's going on Twitter too.
Shout out to Big Rod Wood.
Here we go. Episode 302. You can find the Detroit Sports Podcast Network anywhere you can find podcasts. We greatly appreciate your support. Thanks everybody for listening. Episode 302 coming to a close. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am Big Doc. Always enjoy broadcasting with you, brother. See everybody next week.
I like how you called yourself Big Doc.
Big Doc.
Let's go, Rod Wood.
Let's go, Big Rod Wood. See everybody next week.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out. And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.